Very kind. Good evening and welcome to Enough Rope. He was once dubbed the most evil rock singer in the world, but with the rise of Australian Idol and Britney Spears Incorporated, it's a title he's had to relinquish. Only he's got something these prefab pop stars will never have: a long career. Lock up your children, lock up your cosmetics, lock up your poultry, and welcome the perennial Mr. Alice Cooper. An audible wave of adoration there.
I know all these people. Yeah.
How do you know these people?
I've played golf with that guy. He owes me money. That guy was in my band for a while.
And could yet be again. You basically invented shock rock, and your stage show is legendary for its success. What's the most over-the-top thing you've done on stage?
When you do my kind of show, there's a lot of Spinal Tap moments. You know, things that are supposed to do this but don't do that. I had a giant cannon. They decided they would shoot Alice across the stage in a cannon.
Yeah.
The cannon was massive. It was from there to here. And in rehearsal, it worked great. They'd put me in, I would get out, they'd put the dummy in, and of course they'd shoot the dummy across, then I would come out. Well, it looked great.
Yeah.
We got in front of about 20,000 people. I get in, the cannon goes off, and the dummy comes out about that far. And just lays there. And it's an obvious dummy, and it's just... Well, we sold the cannon the next day to the Stones. And they used it for something entirely inappropriate.
A backstage party with Keith Richards. So when something like that happens, when the dummy's just hanging there, how do you cover a moment like that?
That's when you just have to kind of make that your Clouseau moment.
Yeah, is that right?
You just kind of come out and just kick the dummy across. And that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, of course.
No, but that, you know, out of all the things that are supposed to happen, a lot of times your mistakes end up being the best things in the show.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always told the band, there's no such thing as a mistake. If you fall over your amp, wait 5 minutes, and then fall over it again. And they think it's part of the show.
Yeah. I assume you've lost a lot of band members that way.
Yes, we have a lot of... I'm down to about 4 now.
Yeah. Actually, has it ever got dangerous for you? Because you have, you know, you've been electrocuted and hung and beheaded. And...
The guillotine is actually not that safe, to be honest with you. The one I'm using
now. They said that in France all those years ago.
Yeah, it's not a safe... Don't try this at home. If you have a guillotine at home. It really only misses me by that much. And it's about a 40-pound blade. Really? And it's razor sharp. So, I mean, it's all a matter of timing on how it works. But the closer it gets, the better it looks. Mm-hmm. So I always like to add that moment of, if you ever gone to a circus and seen the guy on the tight wire, you know, and there's no net, and you go, well, you know, he could fall. Well, that's the same thing with the show. There's always that little added element of adventure there.
The thing is, over the years, particularly in the 70s, I mean, people reacted with outrage to you. In England, they banned your stuff. Members of Parliament were up in arms.
Oh, it was so easy to shock an audience in the 70s. You know, I mean, if your name was Alice and you wore a snake around your neck and you looked like something that crawled up out of hell somewhere, and you were singing School's Out or I Love the Dead or all this stuff, and you were cutting your head off, the British didn't quite get that. You know, I don't know why. Call me old-fashioned. I don't know what it is. Now, you know, on a serious note, CNN is pretty hard to beat on a shock level. Yeah. If I watch CNN and there's a guy really getting his head cut off, then the guillotine loses its impact as shock. And now it's for entertainment. Now when you see the show, my show, it's much more, you go there because it's some kind of odd, bizarre, burlesque, Cirque du Soleil rock and roll show that's so weird, but it's fun. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think shock rock really exists anymore. I don't really think you can shock an audience.
We've got a photo of you actually in your pre-Alice Cooper days, and I'm just wondering how you got from there to
nice little Beatle band.
The most evil rock singer in the world. What was that journey?
Well, you know, everybody at that point was Peter Pan. And I said, where's Captain Hook? And I said, why shouldn't I be Captain Hook? I'm a great Captain Hook. And I created the Alice character. I just knew I was the villain. For, you know, for every McCartney and Herman's Hermits and all that, there was just no villain. And I said, you know, I can create this Alice character to be the greatest rock villain of all time. And now you have to remember, now I talk about Alice in the third person because the Alice that's talking to you now is not the same one you're going to see on stage. That Alice, I don't even talk to. You know, he's on another level at all. You know, he's a character I created. But of course, when I was an alcoholic, there was a very blurred line there. I didn't know where Alice began and where I stopped.
Because you, by your own admission, I think you drank a bottle of whiskey a day for way too long.
You have to remember, when I went to L.A., I was this kid from Phoenix. And the first person I met was Jim Morrison. Okay?
Yeah.
So I got Jim Morrison as a big brother.
Yeah.
I've got Janis Joplin as a big sister. I've got Keith Moon as best buddies. Everybody I knew was like, you know, the worst of the worst.
Where were you living in LA? In a vat of alcohol?
It was, yeah. These people were actually, that was the one thing that taught me how to be Alice, though. You know, I learned that every single one of them died, by the way, at 27 years old. It's a very odd thing. There's about 10 rock stars that all died at 27. And I said, well, if my image is even going to be more intense than Jim Morrison's, and it's going to be more intense than Janis Joplin and Keith Moon and all these people, then I can't let him leave the stage. There's got to be a separation between the two. I live a full life. I've been married 29 years to the same girl, never cheated on her once, got 3 kids and never been in trouble. I lived a real different life. When I become Alice, I get to be that Al. I get to be him. It's like Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter. You know, you get to be Hannibal Lecter, and all of a sudden, it's a different character, you know, and so it's fun.
It's almost like a therapy for you to be Alice, because that's where all your demons go. So at that time when you were
you should see the other Andrew. Unbelievable.
Tall, blonde, sexy.
Teeth that go like that, huge teeth.
So when you, how did you know? So when you were hitting the bottle, which was for a long time, if Alice was kind of being Alice on stage was therapy, how come you were hitting the bottle as well? Yeah,
well, it was funny. It was like, you know, when I did take the cure for alcohol, which, by the way, was not a cure, it was a healing. I came out of the hospital never, ever being tempted by a drink, never, ever being like in the least bit under the worst stress, ever thinking about taking a drink, never went to AA. And everybody's sitting there going, wow, what great willpower. I have no willpower. I came out and it was it was a healing, you know. My dad was a pastor, my granddad was a pastor, my wife's father's a pastor, and I'm Christian now. And it was, when people say there are no miracles, I go, oh yes there are. I'm a walking miracle, because I was the worst alcoholic you can imagine. And 24 years I haven't had not a drop.
I want to come back to that, but you just skipped over something there. Why was it that you were drinking so heavily? Because I know you went to shrinks to deal with those sort of demons. What was driving
Well, you know, you're a kid and you see the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and you're, you know, 16, and you're going, oh man, I want to have a great big giant house, and I want to have a model girlfriend and a Rolls Royce, and I want to be an alcoholic, and I want to... Yeah, let's reel that back. You never see the alcohol coming. You never see the drugs coming. You're going in this upward direction, upward direction, upward direction. All of a sudden, bam, you get hit by this thing that was just sort of like casual. Pretty soon, that beer that was just for fun is now medicine.
And when did you realize this has gone too far?
Oh, it was at a point I was in the middle of the Welcome to My Nightmare tour. There was still 8 months to go on the tour. I'd already been out for a year on this tour. And I knew I was really deep. I knew I was throwing up blood in the morning, you know, which is okay on stage.
Yeah.
But when it's just the Holiday Inn maid seeing it, you know, it loses its impact.
Yeah.
You know?
And she never asked for an encore.
No, and she just went, she's throwing up blood again. Yeah. But, you know, that's when you realize there's something really wrong going on inside.
So
And you can't stop. You're in the middle of a tour.
Yeah.
So you have to keep doing it.
So you could have easily gone down the path that Jim Morrison and Keith Moon and those guys did.
I think the doctor said I had about 6 months. You know, when he finally checked me out, he says, you are... The thing about it was I was a totally functional alcoholic. I mean, I could go drink a bottle a day, never slur a word, never stumble, never miss an interview, never miss a show, and nobody knew I was drinking that much whiskey.
How did you feel?
Felt pretty good, actually. But inside, I was, internally, I knew there was something wrong. You know, there's always that inward knowing that you're dying. It may look good on the outside, but something's really going on wrong in there. And yet you have 8 more months to go, and you can't stop this tour. It's too big of a train rolling, you know.
So were you drinking just out of habit, or were you drinking
to survive? I was drinking to get to the next day.
Well, you mentioned your father was an ordained preacher,
Yeah.
and you saw him as a teenager.
Yeah.
You saw his whole life transform.
Yeah.
Through God. What happened?
Sure. Well, my dad was the strangest of creatures. My dad was an honest used car salesman. Couldn't make a penny, you know, because he'd sell a car, and then he would run out and he'd go, wait. We turned the odometer back. And these tires are painted, you know, and this thing is a bucket, and the guy would give the money back, and he'd go back in, and the guy that he was working for was a total criminal, you know, and he says, Mick, this is not your business at all. So you need to be a pastor or something, because you're too honest to be a car salesman.
Yeah.
And that was his calling. He worked on the Apache Reservation for 25 years as a missionary.
Yeah.
And I was with him. I'd go every weekend up there with him.
Were your parents proud of you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Did they come to gigs?
Oh, yeah. They came to every gig.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did they shout, chop his head off before everyone else?
They'd say, kill him, you know. Put gas in the car first. But they totally got it. You know, I would have to bring my whole family, especially my kids, to see how the guillotine worked. So, you know, 3-year-old daughter look at the guillotine, seeing Dad's head get cut off, you know, and she'd look at it and go, oh, okay, it's a trick, yeah, it's a trick.
It must be tough for kids, though, to grow up with a dad who is unshockable, because that's what you want to do.
What can they do?
Yeah.
They can't come home with blue hair. You know, they come home with black lipstick and blue hair, and I go, yeah, I invented that, you know. So the way they get me is they come home and my daughter will go, hey, Dad, listen to this new Garth Brooks album. You know. Oh.
That must test your faith.
Oh, yeah, she'll come and say, I want you to meet my new boyfriend, Bubba. Oh, jeez.
Because you've got your youngest, Sonora, is 13. Are you into, like, parental advisory stickers on CDs?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. No, I mean, my daughter's 12. Yeah, my wife teaches ballet. She was with Joffrey Ballet. She's been in the business 35 years. I've been in the business, there she is right there, great-looking girl. I've been in the business that long. So our kids, there was no way that our kids weren't going to be in show business. My daughter, Calico, is in the show now. She just finished 4 movies in L.A. And when I said I'm going out on tour, she said, well, I have to play Paris Hilton in this, right? I go, yeah. Okay, if you want to. She was Britney last year, you know. And
it's not a pretty ending.
It's not a pretty ending to Britney at all. But we left Britney alone this year.
Yeah, because she's pregnant.
My son's got a band, you know, who pretends not to listen to me, but he does.
But you must be disappointed. The whole business of being a teenager is to rebel against your parents'
I know. They
musical
just, you know, it's really true, though. I think we all watch everybody else's kids rebel, and then my kids go, I'm not into that. Dad's too... My daughter comes home, she says, you know what the problem is, Dad? You're cooler than my friends. She said, I wish I could say you weren't, but you are. You're cooler than my friends.
So when somebody wants to date her, it's just horrible when they come back to your place.
Well, you know, they come home, you know, and I answer the door in full Alice with a machete. Come here. Let's talk. And then you know, there's like fake heads on there. Skippy, Bob, Tommy, you know.
I want to take a left tack here. In reading about you, I discovered that you had a couple of friends who were basically giants of culture in their own way. Groucho Marx.
Yeah.
And Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
Fascinating men.
Yeah.
What were they like? Let's start with Groucho.
Well, Groucho was Groucho. Groucho was just like, he was 86 years old and could still rip you to pieces.
Yeah. At
the drop of a hat. He was so quick, so fast. He would invite me over at night. Well, first of all, he'd come to the shows.
Is that how you
because he
met?
saw us as vaudeville.
Really?
Yeah, he saw Alice Cooper as vaudeville. And that's what he came up in, burlesque and vaudeville. So he came to one of the shows and saw it and totally took it as, well, it's vaudeville. So he brought George Burns Jack Benny the next time. Yeah. Okay, the next time he brings Mae West and Fred Astaire. Now, my kids up there are going, what is this? So every time I look around, there's a legend watching the show, and they all took it the same way. It's vaudeville. But Groucho was great. He'd wake me up, he'd call my house at 2 in the morning, and he'd go, Alice, I can't sleep, come over. So I'd come over there, there'd be a chair like this, there'd be a 6-pack of Budweiser, and a television. He'd be in bed with his beret on and a cigar. And we'd watch movies all night, because he was an insomniac. And, you know, he'd say, see that guy there? It'd be an old cowboy movie, you know. Yeah, hey, he's gay. You know, what? So but that guy's a great hero. He said, nah, he's gay. You know, because he knew all these guys. He said, that girl there, yeah. Chico and Harpo nailed her. You know, and he'd be telling all these backstories, and pretty soon, after about 4 or 5 hours, I'd look over, and he'd be asleep. And I'd take a cigar, put it out, turn off the TV, and go home. Next night, Alice, yeah, come on over. Wow. So he was great. I mean, I had a great time with him.
And what about Salvador Dali, the Mad Spaniard?
Well, now, Salvador Dali was, he saw our show, totally different. He saw our show as surrealistic. He saw the show as like one of his paintings. He saw crutches. He saw garbage cans. He saw all snakes. He saw all the stuff that was in his paintings. And he related it to a surrealistic painting of his, which wasn't that far wrong, because we were all art students, and we worshipped Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, a lot of Salvador Dali ended up in our show.
A lot of people in rock and roll, it's very fashionable to despise George W. Bush.
Yeah.
And it's not a view you subscribe to, is it?
Well, I think if you're in a war, you don't want a poodle in there. You want a pit bull. I don't think that you want a guy in there going, gee, I don't know. Maybe, could be. I think you want a guy in there that's either going to win it or lose it.
Are you referring to Iraq or the broader war against Al-Qaeda?
I just think that war is going to go on for a long time.
Yeah.
Whoever is the president, if it would have been Kerry, he would have been just as knee-deep in it. And I don't think Bush got us into that war. I think that started at 9/11, and I think that somebody had to take it from there.
It doesn't worry you, the false connection that was made between 9/11 and Saddam Hussein, all that stuff that's been shown?
No, it doesn't bother me, because I honestly think it's all connected.
The one thing we do know about 9/11 is that nobody involved in it actually came from Iraq. That's probably the one thing we absolutely know.
Yeah, well, it's probably true. But I can't see them going, oh, gosh, the guys in Iraq going, gee, how horrible for America. I think there's a general feeling in that world that if America falls, they'll be in much better state.
Yeah.
So we have to view those people in the same boat. I don't see much difference between the Al-Qaeda in Iraq and... not the people, I'm talking about the governments.
Yeah.
I mean, the people, the poor people, are the victims.
Saddam and Osama bin Laden actually hated each other.
Yeah, hated each other a lot, I'll bet. Bet you they traded Rolls Royces. You don't think there was a cigar going around when that happened at 9/11? I'll bet you there was.
I think a lot of people are surprised to learn that you're a Christian. They're surprised to learn you vote George W. Bush, but they're absolutely shocked to discover you're a keen golfer.
That's the biggest shocker, I think. And that I'm a pretty good cook.
Is it true you've had 3 holes in one in your career?
3 hole-in-ones, 2 double eagles, shot 67, 68, probably 10 or 15 times.
It pays off believing in God, doesn't it?
He has nothing to do, trust me. I go, come on! You know, and he goes, that's not going in. No.
Have you considered for your stage show actually coming on in +4s, chipping from a bunker, saying vote George W. Bush? Wouldn't that be a shock show?
You know what, it would be.
Yeah.
It would be a comedy. It would definitely be a comedy. Because, see, I don't see rock and roll and politics being in the same bed together.
Yeah?
I just don't see it. When my parents started talking about politics, I'd run in the other room and put the Rolling Stones on at full blast. I didn't want to hear about tax reforms. I didn't want to hear about who's doing who to what. You know, I just didn't want to care about it. And to this day, rock and roll should be the escape from politics, not the answer to politics.
You mentioned before that CNN has sort of outstripped anything you could do on stage. But if you were a new band coming through, wanting to do what you've done, which was shock people, attract attention through the performance, the sheer performance, what would you do?
I would say songs.
Yeah?
It's always going to be the best songs. The only reason I'm still here is because of 14 top 40 songs. if there was no show, they would still come because they want to hear those songs. Would they still come if it was just the guillotine, if it was just this and that? I don't think so. I think they would come. I think they come for the music.
Speaking of songs, I've always been curious about this. We've got a clip here of one of your songs, Only Women Bleed. If we can just show a bit of that.
Smokes and drinks and don't come home at all. Only women bleed. Only women bleed. Only women bleed. Only women bleed.
Now, here we go. I've always been curious. Here you were, Mr. Hard Rock, Alice Cooper. How did you write a woozy song like that?
I know, you know. At the time, it was part of the nightmare. It was in the Welcome to My Nightmare show. I know I had all these nightmares going on all over the place, and I said, you can't just have all nightmare. You have to have that moment. You have to play it against a really soft, romantic, touching moment. How do you do that? Well, you have to write a song, and I include this in every album. To this day, they always have a ballad that women are going to just love. And I have a talent for writing that really touching little ballad. You know, and Only Women Bleed was not talking about a menstrual cycle at all. It was talking about women bleed emotionally, whereas men don't.
Do you test these on Cheryl?
Cheryl did the ballet.
Yeah.
In that show, right there. If that would have kept going on, you would have seen this ballet going on. That was my wife.
But you say you got a talent for writing these
oh, yeah,
ballads
I write all my
love.
ballads for my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm very romantic. I'm extremely romantic. You know, I date my wife.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's a date?
You know, I call her up and I'll say, listen, what are you doing Friday night? You know, 'cause
She says, who is this?
I date her. You know, we have date night. We go out and get a hotel. You know, I'm very romantic.
You get a whole hotel?
Buy the hotel.
Yeah.
Kick everybody out.
I love your lifestyle.
No, but I think you have to. That's one thing guys don't understand. This is something that you'd be very surprised that I understand, is that men are microwaves and women are pressure cookers. Men want sex, bang. Women like romance. Guys learn how to romance.
You said that when you're on the golf course, the people still expect you to be satanic and evil.
Yes, and I am to some people that are paying me.
Yeah.
So, come on, give me a time.
Play through or die. So, what's it like to be caught in a time warp of other people's expectations?
Well, I think by now, people understand that there's, you know, that there's the two entities. I think Alice now is woven so much into the fabric of rock and roll, and I mean, Alice is a bit of an American treasure when it comes. I'm like a Vincent Price character now, the character, I mean, and since I just would not go away, you know, I had staying power, and now. I think they know there's two. There's the Alice that they're going to see on stage, and then there's me.
It must be fantastic to have. I mean, if something goes wrong, it's Alice did it.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I can blame everything on Alice. It's great, you know. Did you wreck the car? No. It's Alice did that. I didn't do that.
It's an act which is more than 30 years old now. You've got a committed fan base. You've got time out for serious golf. It's a really nice arrangement for you.
It's a great life. Yeah.
What stretches you?
Well, you know, every time you go out on the road, I feel every time I go out on the road, I still got to prove myself. I think people are thinking, Alice Cooper, let me see. He's got to be really old, and he's got to be really tired. And this show is just going to be him walking through the set somehow. And I'm the first guy that turns around to the guitar player and goes, turn that up. You know, I refuse to ever mellow out the show.
So you're going to know, I mean, you're 57 now, you look fantastically fit, but you're going to reach a point where you turn that up, your bones are going to break.
You know, I kept saying that, which would be good on stage.
Yeah,
it'd be good if I could figure out.
Always the showman.
The whole face comes off, you know, it'd be great. Okay, that's too loud. I look at Mick Jagger, and they're on an 18-month tour. And he's 6 years older than me. And so I figure when he retires, I have 6 more years. Yeah, I will not let him beat me when it comes to longevity.
And nor shall he. May the day
he
never
will
come.
not
Alice
beat me.
Cooper, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.